Heyo everybody, Haku here with this week's read-through for Magical Girl Raising Project, or Mahou Shoujo Ikusei Keikaku, ACES. And we're at Chapter 1, and we're probably going to finish off Chapter 1 here, because we're at the end of page 32, beginning of page 33, as we jump back to Uluru from Sarami Nakano. So I'm really excited to read this week because Uluru is like one of my favorites already, and I really like Sarami too. She's really good. Like, I loved seeing everything with this group last week, and last week's read through was really fun. So yeah, last week's was really fun, and I'm excited to read this week because of it. So let's finish off chapter 1 and see what we got. And one thing I brought up last week too, I think that ACES is already... I loved Jokers, and I liked Limited. I mean, I think Limited has tons of problems, but I liked it. But they kind of took a slow time to build up characters to where you like them. But I feel like it's chapter 1, and already we're getting into really good development for all these different characters, and really looking deep into a lot of these characters already. So I think ACES is doing a really good job at the start here. But either way, like I said, end of page 32, beginning of 33 with Uluru here. They decided to use the trains to move around. An amateur would think that a magical girl could run just as fast, if only their brains were as good as their muscle. If someone saw a girl outspeeding a car at 10 a.m., that'd be big trouble. Uluru, being a magical girl who served the three sages, couldn't afford to cause any big trouble, so she'll protect the rules. But when Uluru tried to explain it, Sarami replied back with an annoying yeah. With that annoying yeah she always made, though surprisingly Snow White only nodded, despite Uluru thinking she'd only object to her. The three of them purchased tickets, got receipts, and got on the train. At this time period, the routes aren't as crowded, as the three of them were sandwiched together. Snow White and Sarami began whispering to each other. Sometimes the childlike voice of Snow White's mascot character mixed into it, praising something. Uluru didn't know what they were talking about. It's not like Uluru has to know, thought Uluru as she looked out the window. The scenery flowed, moving from left to right, and she only saw a bit of Mount Shoki. Puck-Puck's taken them there once before. Sarami and Sachiko too. They even made lunch together. The sandwich that Sachiko made shattered and crushed. It's Sachiko after all. When Uluru offered her own food, everyone laughed together. Luxurious, huh? Laughed everyone. Sachiko hasn't changed one bit since they were children. A weakling crybaby who was a coward. In combat situations, even making the enemies a little strong made her cry. Simulations, I think I might have accidentally said situations. Simulations, even making the enemies a little stronger made her cry. She'd cry out, "It's too hard," which Uluru remembered made Puck-Puck have to take time adjusting the difficulty. In case something happened in the future, Puck-Puck gave them monthly allowances to save, but even that small amount of money wasn't enough, which made Uluru stand up and say, "You really need to stop wasting things, you know?" Besides, her magical skill wasn't useful at all, a power that allowed you to use up all of your life's luck at once, the ability to guarantee absolute success for someone in doing a single thing. But Uluru didn't want to remember what happened to that person after using up their luck. Having a meteorite fall on her head, being rammed by a runaway truck while in a library, something wretched like that, as if the world said, "Go die now" to you, the end is coming for you. You couldn't even force someone to use that luck either. In order to use Sachiko's magic, you had to sign a contract she made from her uniform, and after you willingly circle yes to all the clauses, you had to sign the signature yourself. It wasn't something you could do in battle, and not something you can ask people to do, even when not battling them, since it was completely useless. Uluru secretly borrowed one of the contracts in order to look them over, but she found no loopholes. In summary, her personality, her physical ability, her powers, every single part of Sachiko was practically useless, yet Puck-Puck still fostered her. She gave her some kind words, took her into excursions, gave her pocket money every month, and even stroked her head when she did something good. She even guided Uluru without throwing Sachiko away. Uluru didn't know about Sarami, but even she divided up her snacks with her. Then Sachiko turned away all obligations, threw it all away, and ran from Puck-Puck. It's not like she hasn't done something like this before. When she broke the bonsai pot, she ran off from the manor before people could tell, and was quickly caught and scolded more than necessary. This time it's worse than worst. She wondered what her reason for running away was. Useless Sachiko finally became useful. Puck-Puck was kind enough not to worry about the bad things. She always found a way to make people useful. Yet Sachiko once again lost to pressure and ran away. Sure, something that's called a ritual sounds scary, but it's not like she's going to be sacrificed. Puck-Puck guaranteed no one's going to die, so why was there a reason to be frightened? And how did it even leak out? How did the Ask faction know that she ran away? Now they're targeting her, since she's that magical girl Puck-Puck needs for the ritual. Uluru's head hurts. She felt like she's going to sigh. However, Uluru was the eldest. The eldest has to guard her sisters. Puck-Puck even told her many times, as the oldest, you gotta take care of your sisters, okay? No matter how furious she got that her sisters ran away, as the eldest, she has to bear along with it. I like that we're jumping back and forth between her and Sarami here. This is really good. While on the train, she was able to tell Snow White about her own magical skill, since it was too hard to explain Snow White's mascot character Fall's power. Sarami used her own to teach herself. Sarami's magical skill is the ability to know the contents of closed spaces. Using this, she can also know the capabilities of a mascot character living inside an administrator magical phone. Okay, so again, this is really, really cool. This is one of those abilities that seems simple. Okay, if there's a closed box, she knows what's in the box, but if you take that skill and apply it differently, then, like, say, a phone is a closed space, she could know everything that's in the phone or something, like how she's analyzing Fall's abilities. So it's really, really, really cool how it's a very simple magical skill that can be used in really cool ways. Just like Snow White's, really. Tired? Huh? I want a break. We saved so many people. Sarami, are you serious? There's only 5 more minutes left. The 3 of them were sitting at the bench side by side. To the right was Snow White and Fall. To the left was Uluru, speaking to her. And although they weren't directly talking to each other, it was close enough to call it communication. Now that I think of it, Uluru, you're using your magic, aren't you? She thought of her own initiative after taking the idea off Snow White. Snow White even thought about others' magical skills. She's heard a lot from Uluru, but really, Snow White truly was a big deal. Once a land of magic had mixed her hand in to deal with a powerful magical girl who used her own magic to remodel her cyber fairy, and then became that fairy's master, Sarami knew that Puck-Puck called her. She knew Snow White defeated Grim Heart. Even so, Uluru probably didn't believe it. Uluru was stubborn and intimidating. Her pride was high and hard. Okay. So, Snow White had mixed her hand, the Land of Magic had mixed her hand in to deal with a powerful magical girl who used her own magic to remodel her cyber fairy, and then became the fairy's master. Okay. That must be talking about Keek changing Fall then. Okay. Uluru was stubborn and intimidating. Her pride was high and hard. She had the pride of someone who served Puck-Puck. She wasn't ashamed of her own behavior. She was quite calm. Sarami was far too embarrassed to talk about it. She knew Uluru wasn't a bad person, she's just obstinate. She'd be the one to order, "Don't forget to pack up," with a sour face, be the first one ready for outings, and be the one who would sleep roughly while rolling around. Even when going to a fine cuisine restaurant, she'd say, "People are far too relaxed at dinner time. It's the only time you have to be on guard," while walking with a somewhat skippy gait. And about Sachiko too. She looked annoyed when Puck-Puck said she had to be a good sister, but this time Sarami knew she was actually seriously worried. Even before Snow White showed up, she said, "Lady Puck-Puck won't abandon Sachiko, will she?" with such a worried tone. Even back then, when Snow White told her, "You're the eldest of the 3, so you're actually worried," Uluru's cheeks became red. If Snow White, who can read the atmosphere, and Sarami, who was familiar with her, didn't point it out, Uluru wouldn't be as embarrassed. In the end, Uluru was the same as always. Sarami would back her up. It should be It should be the eldest or second daughter who supported the younger ones, but the eldest is too aggressive and the second's far too shy. Even if Uluru didn't know about Snow White's magical skill or Fall's abilities, she'd be troubled. She was far too fixated to be told anyways. Though if she didn't know her own powers, that'd be troublesome too. She really was too fixated to be told what to do. They also talked about what Sachiko would look like as a human. There were merits and demerits to being a magical girl. The biggest advantage was their speed and that they don't need food or drink, but since their appearances were always gaudy and stood out, it's difficult for them to socialize and lurk in society. Snow White predicted an 8-to-2 ratio that Sachiko ran off as a magical girl. The fact that there was a 20% chance that she could be human was something to consider. The one who served as the coordinator between Uluru and Sachiko every day was Sarami. She wasn't disgusted about it. She's gotten used to it. Since she was better at this than she is at fighting, she appreciated it. It was tiring to see Sachiko cry. It was also tiring to see Uluru get angry. Even when Puck keeps telling him you guys should get along, she thought so. When they got off the train, in front of them was a capsule hotel. Once these three were sent as substitutes when Puck was supposed to have dinner with some VIP and stayed overnight. Or a VIP somewhere and stayed overnight. If a magical girl comes within 200 meters, Fall can detect her. The distance should also be the same for Snow White to be able to hear the voice of Sachiko's heart. If Sachiko left the city, Puck would notice, meaning Sachiko was still in the city. She told all that information to Snow White and Uluru. Behind the capsule hotel there was a supermarket and a shopping district, and some mass merchandise stores, some family restaurants, some large bookstores, a fashion mall, and an electronics district. They proceeded onward until they got a magical girl reaction. Whether it be from Snow White hearing them, Fall's radar detecting them, or Sarami touching the buildings to grasp what's inside of them. If Sachiko wasn't there, or if Sachiko didn't head to this building today, she'll report it immediately. Sarami whispered to Snow White again. She was surprised at the performance of a lot of the modern home appliances, or finding out what her favorite manga was, as there were new ones that came out. Okay? Or saying that once something like this happened, for example, once Sachiko messed up in the supermarket here and broke all the eggs, which Uluru immediately helped clean up. Stuff like that. After all, she never forgot that Uluru wasn't a bad person. They went to the public park. There Sarami insisted that they stop. It's interesting, Sarami mentioning that there were new ones that came out when when talking about manga, or her being surprised at a lot of the modern home appliances, making it seem like Sarami has been pretty disconnected from the real world here. I went to a public park. There Sarami insisted they stop. I'm tired. I want a break. She didn't really want to overcome impossible odds. Uluru answered her insistence. What are you saying, Sarami? We just rested back at the station. But since we're trying to be super efficient, we gotta rest whenever we can. If we just keep on walking without resting, that'll lower our efficiency, right? Look, there's a sashimi stand right there. I'll buy some and we can eat at a bench. She considerably forced them to take a break as she purchased 3 large sashimis and decided they'd take a break there. The only people who would think resting's unnecessary just because magical girls don't need food and drink were resistant to fatigue were people like Uluru. People like Sarami would instead think about how it's important to have small breaks to chat and build up relationships, and to enjoy the finer things like tasty food. With a huge hot sashimi in both of her hands, she returned. Uluru was in the middle of what was probably a sermon-like speech when a synthetic voice rang out. A total of 3 magical girl reactions. They're slowly approaching us from the east gate, Pone. The speed is about the same as a human walking. Close to running, actually, Pone. None of the 3 people would be Sachiko. Furthermore, she wouldn't be coming this way like that. Sarami looked around. The brick crossroads on the right, the sashimi stand about 20 meters behind her. There were a total of 4 people in their surroundings. There was no one where they were, though. It's inevitable that there would be witnesses, but so long as they're not dragged into a fight. Then, there was the dust blowing. There were magical girls that were running towards them. 3 magical girls threw their coats away as they ran. Snow White's the three magical girls threw their coats away as they ran. Snow White's heels were already on the brick road, her mascot character going, huh? The three magical girls were surprisingly very similar looking. Oh, they looked like card soldiers, with the only difference being what's drawn on them. Okay, so Snow White's gonna recognize them. Jack of Spades, Queen of Spades, and King of Spades. Oh, so three of the strongest ones. They were holding spade-like spears, expressionless as they headed this way. Just looking at them conveyed their strength. And now we're going to Fall. We're on page 38. Fall. He was confused. Card soldier magical girls. Shufflins. There was no mistaking it. They fought so many of them back at the underground lab. After the incident, they were reported as having died in an accident, with none remaining. Fall wasn't the kind of idiot who would believe what the news called was a simple accidental death. He knew that the ones in charge liked to manage it that way. It's not rare for someone to be killed off in an accident if it inconvenienced them, but if that were the case, that'd be strange in itself. The three sages were valuable to the public. Being a magical girl who could get killed in an accident was not something you'd want to be when you show your face to the public. Attacked by a rival faction that you couldn't see coming while being on a nice day in a public park would be a horrible situation to be in. The magical girls moved faster than Fall could even calm his own confusion. Sarami opened her palm, standing at a stance that watched in front and behind her. Snow White threw off her coat and wielded her weapon. Uluru pointed her rifle to the enemy, shouting out before they could reach her, "Get down and close your eyes. If you don't, you'll die." Fall wasn't equipped with a function to close his eyes. The person who modified Fall, Keek, was emotional about magical girls, but completely rational when it came to mascot characters. While she remodified Fall many times, she didn't give him any human-like functions. Thus, because of Keek, Fall was going to die here, and he couldn't lie down, and he couldn't close his eyes. If he couldn't do those, he'd die. First came despair, then it changed to regret, then sorrow and the feeling of being mortified, then fear reared its neck. There was always the danger that he would die, many times, however. He never thought about how he was going to die, but he wouldn't really imagine it that way. He never wondered if heaven or hell existed, but even if they would their gates be open to something created via magical technology? He didn't think so. If he died, would he just be nothing? Would he be able to help Snow White anymore? Would Snow White be okay being alone? That is a great paragraph. Fall being like, oh my god, if I don't close... Because, I mean, he's a cyber fairy. Do his eyes even count as eyes? Can he really die unless they smash his, whatever he's in, like they did with Fav? So he's freaking out like, oh my god, I'm gonna die. Is there heaven or hell? Even if there is, will they accept this cyber fairy? It's so good. The three Shufflins slid forward and laid down. Oh, okay. Snow White and Sarami also lied down, but then immediately stood up. Did Snow White not listen to what Uluru said? She passed on some rope towards Sarami, then bound the Shufflin's arms and legs on the ground. Okay. Sarami and Uluru... Oh! Okay. Cause Uluru said get down or die, that's why all of them slid and hit the ground. Did Snow White not listen to what Uluru said? She passed on some rope towards Sarami, then bound the Shufflin's arms and legs on the ground. Sarami and Uluru also bound the Shufflins as well. So I don't think that was a bluff, but if it was a bluff, then it worked very, very well. Sarami and Uluru also bound the Shufflins as well. The Shufflins were lying down and closing their eyes. Neither Snow White, Uluru, nor Sarami looked like they died. Fall remembered, there was no reason you'd die if you didn't lie down and close your eyes. Okay then. So what do you want to do with them, huh? Oh, it's because that's a perfect way to defeat the Shufflins even if they're super strong. Because the Shufflins are just gonna be gullible and listen to orders and stuff. Because they're basically like children that have to be taught what everything is and how to do everything. So if you say, oh my god, get down and close your eyes or you're gonna die, then the Shufflin are gonna get down and close their eyes because they don't know any better. Because they're basically like children. That's actually really, really smart. I thought it was Uluru that said that. Yeah, it was Uluru who said that. But she must have not used her skill with her weapon, whatever her skill is. and they were able to just tie them up once they got down. Either that or it was a bluff, and Uluru's smarter than I'm expecting her to be. But yeah, that makes total sense for taking out the shuffling, because we saw that play a role in Jokers, where the shuffling had to be explained exactly what to do by the main Joker shuffling. Okay, so what do you want to do with him, huh? We can't leave him alone. I'll keep him for now. Snow White opened the bag she had on her waist, the bag that could hold anything. She threw the 3 bound shufflins one after the other. I love this. So Snow White just has 3 of the shufflins in her possession now, or 3 of the strongest shufflin rather. So that takes 3 of the strongest shufflin sort of out of the game, so to speak, for right now. It's really interesting. But either way, we have Snow White here in the next character section or whatever at page 40. Snow White. The 3 shufflins all went inside the bag, careful to be tied up so they couldn't see or notice Uluru. They had to tie knots that were able to cause magical girls not to move, though the magical rope itself is unbreakable. Using this, they wouldn't be able to escape. Sarami patted Uluru on the back. "You did it, Uluru," and Uluru held her chest. You're not so bad with plans yourself, Sarami." Snow White saw both of them as she silently smiled. Uluru's cheeks were flushed, the hand holding her rifle was trembling. She was nervous, though make no mistake, the way she used her magical skill was the correct one. She was able to capture and resolve the situation with these powerful card magical girls without shedding blood. A useful magical skill, not to mention something that was compatible with Snow White's own. Uluru's ability to make anyone believe her lies. Oh, it's so good. I love it. Oh, that is such a good skill, and that's why she has the fake gun that doesn't actually work. Uluru's ability to... this is so brilliant. So it isn't even that they're just gullible, it's just that they believed Uluru because of her skill. Uluru's skill is so cool. That's even cooler than Wedden's skill to make the promises. To make anyone believe her lies, that is one of the coolest magical skills we've had so far. Uluru, I already said, is one of my favorites, but oh my god, that is such a good skill. It almost reminds me of Kafiria's in levels of creativity. Especially in a series like Magical Girl Raising Project, where there's always betrayal and lies and mystery. To have somebody believe their lies, Uluru is like the ultimate Keikaku now. Oh, it's so good. Let me actually try to get through this paragraph. Uluru's ability to make anyone believe her lies allowed her to say, "Lay down on the ground and close your eyes or you'll die." The shufflins believed it and did so, neutralizing them and allowing them to be bound. If you know that Uluru's lie was a lie, then her power is immediately cancelled. So Snow White was released instantly when she heard the voice in Uluru's heart saying I'd be in trouble if they knew it was a lie. Sarami, who knew how Uluru worked, could be released even without hearing her. Fall, who had heard her powers explained, was slightly confused, but also released from her powers. Okay, so this is why, even though he's a cyber fairy, he believed he would die anyway. Only the shufflins, who didn't know about her powers, continued to be restrained by her magic and remained lying down with their eyes closed. Snow White picked up her thrown coat, wearing it as she spoke to Uluru. "Aren't you gonna help everyone else?" "You don't have to say it." Uluru was going to do it anyway. The people who were in reach of Uluru's voice, the owner of the sashimi shop, unlucky passerby, a salaryman who skipped work in the park, the old man feeding the pigeons, were now on the ground closing their eyes. Her power is the best. Oh my god, I love Uluru. Only the pigeons continued eating without concern. "That was just a lie. You can get up and open your eyes now." She held out once, then immediately walked away. Snow White and Sarami followed along. Fall's voice lowered until it finally became a whisper when he asked, "What about the shufflins, Pone?" Snow White replied with a similar tone, "They're different." "Different?" "They're different from the ones we fought at the underground lab. It's only a little bit different, but they're stronger than they look. Their boots also have a different amount of ribbons. Their strength and durability have increased. Also, there's no Joker." "No Joker? If we kill them all, they're gone. No Joker means no reviving. That's what I heard from their voices." Okay. So these ones were smart enough, or must have been taught or trained enough, that she actually could hear their voices, because there were some where they could, or like she had different varying levels of being able to hear their voice in Joker's. So she could actually hear their voice, which means they were smart enough for her to hear her voice. But also there's no Joker, so there's a chance that this whole accidental thing, either they've been lied to as well, or it's true that, at least for now, Grimheart and the Joker shuffling have been taken out. And so now all that's left over are the leftover non-Joker shuffling. So the deck can't be reshuffled from at least what they know right now. That's really, really cool. And it was in their heart, and that's usually not a lie. So the only way it can be wrong is, again, if the spade shuffling themselves were lied to. That's really, really cool. Between that and Uluru's power, this arc, oh man, it's so good. Just chapter 1, there have been so many hype moments already. But Uluru's power taking them out like that is one of the coolest moments so far in the whole series. That is such a cool moment. But we're going to a new character. CQ Angel Hamuel. I was close. I said Gabriel, and I was like, what if it's Raphael or some other generic angel name? I was close. Hamuel is a generic-ass angel name. So we have CQ Angel Hamuel. Alright. And I have no idea. We haven't seen them yet at all, so we have no idea who they're affiliated with at this point. And I'm assuming they're the cool, like, Bone Wing Angel. Did they have bone wings? I think they did. Pretty sure they're that design. Despite the Osk faction operating as one, it's not a monolith. As there are several dimensions in a single world, there are several planets in a single star system, as there are several countries in a single planet, as there are 3 large factions in the Land of Magic, they're shaped into large and small forces. The Osk faction rarely makes use of the local recruitment of magical girls. They prefer to create tools or experimental bodies, and it's said that they often dispose of them. In reality, they didn't do it that much, though there were inhumane mages at the top of their leadership. Okay, so there are some inhumane mages at the top, but the Osk faction isn't all bad. And we see that, of course, we knew that Grimheart was trying to get the experimental bodies, or the pure elements, out of the facility in Joker's, and to try to grab them and pretty much shut down the facility in order to cover her own tracks, because whoever was running the facility was related to Grimheart. So again, that makes total sense now, getting this lore. Alright. That's why it was rare for magical girls to actually want to work alongside the Osk faction, but it wasn't completely zero. CQ Angel Hamuel had the ambitious idea of having less magical girls means having more chances, and the confident thought of, if I'm not disposable, there won't be any problems. They're here, confirmed from above, 3 targets. Their appearances have been relayed. Snow White is the protective sister type of opponent, but no matter, they usually produce good results. Okay. She had a wireless communication device on her hands to relay a message. This was Hamuel's magical communication device. If she's met someone before, she can relay a message straight into their heads, no matter where they are. So I'm wondering if this is her actual ability, or if it's just some device she has. I'm thinking it's not her actual ability, but just a device she has, but I could be wrong. So if she's met someone, she can relay a message straight into their heads, no matter where they are. Actually, that does sound like more of an ability. There was also the convenient function of translating any messages they didn't understand. This time, Hamuel was relaying a message to her subordinates, Shufflin' 2. Okay. So the Shufflins then probably worked. Okay. They usually produce no good results. Alright, so CQ Angel Hamuel must have been watching from above like so far above that Fall couldn't tell she was there, and the 3 targets she's talking about was Snow White's group. Okay, so she watched everything going on there. Alright. This time she was relaying a message to her subordinate Shufflin' 2. Following Hamuel's instructions, all 49 Shufflin' 2s, excluding the 3 that were captured, began moving. The improved Shufflin' 2s have been customized to suit their commander, and their abilities and appearance have also been subtly changed. Hamuel's subordinate Shufflin' Twos had no joker, thus their individual abilities were strengthened. Okay, so they're each stronger individually, but they can't be reshuffled. Okay. Alright then. There were plenty in the Shufflin' series that boasted Joker as their greatest feature. No matter how many times they were killed, all they had to do was capture one captive to restore them at full power. It would cost their opponents an extremely difficult fight, yet basically made the original Shufflin' like god-tier magical girl, pretty much. It caused their opponents an extremely difficult fight, because you think about it, her strongest spade Shufflin' could take on multiple incredibly strong magical girls like Marika and Snow White, and some of the pure elements, like just by itself. So if she had an army as her being Joker and could just constantly reshuffle it by killing innocent people, then the original Joker was like extremely powerful. It caused their opponents an extremely difficult fight, as they can't even allow a single one of them to be captured. Hamuel's way of thinking was different. If the Shufflin' series capabilities were concealed, she may have thought things that way, but Grimheart just had to go off and reveal a variety of Shufflin' series abilities everywhere. A very bad way of using them. If they knew that they'll be sacrificed as soon as they're captured, there's no way the enemy'd surrender. They'd continue to desperately resist to the very end. Soldiers who are willing to die are frightened. If those soldiers were magical girls, that'd be even more frightening. People who believed in attacking the enemy despite potentially sacrificing their most important things, their lives. Magical girls who think like that can grow their hearts. Magical girls who could grow their hearts stronger could also grow their magical abilities stronger. They might be mad enough to die, but they won't let it end with a simple death. Diamond Unit, continue monitoring from long range. Clover and Spades, watch the Cyber Fairy. If you suddenly run, he'll know you're magical girls. She despised the enemy Cyber Fairy. His search range was wider than she thought. While escorting the diamonds, the three Spades headed off forward, and just by doing that they were discovered. And since that happened, she wanted to know the enemy's strength. She told them to keep watch, but they ended up being captured. When the sudden accident happened, Hamuel didn't let the accident end as simply as an accident. Even if 3 of the Spades were captured, as long as she can make an advantage out of it, it'll be okay. During the battle at the park, she was able to find out the Cyber Fairy's search radius. She also knew how the Rifle Magical Girl did her magical skill now. She had the ability to make her opponents believe anything she says. Since the humans around her also lied down to the ground, it works on anyone who can hear her. However, the pigeons didn't do that. Did they not notice the other people rapidly lying down? They were simply pecking at the fallen popcorn. Perhaps people that didn't understand what she said weren't affected, but Hamuel's subordinates, the Shufflin' Two, who were used as scouts, were unfortunately affected due to understanding speech. In exchange, Hamuel had now taught them that the Joker didn't exist. Snow White knew the absence of the Joker. She didn't think Snow White's mind-reading powers could inform her. Now she knew. Okay? Even if the 3 Spades were captured, it was still a good trade-off. There was an accident, but there were also many advantages due to this. Then all is well. Knowledge of the enemy was worth more than 3 soldiers. She was asked to find Premium Sachiko. Their siege range had now decreased by attacking them with the Ace of Spades as the Axis, who had overwhelming fighting capabilities, so if she could, she'd want them to surrender before any heavy damage was done. Since there wasn't any Joker, the Shufflins couldn't revive. Having no Joker made the Shufflins more like homunculi, but they were cute henchmen. She'd rather not suffer casualties. She was sure their opponents would want to cause the least amount of casualties as well. If they were going to both try to reduce their casualties, then they should be able to reach a compromise somewhere. That meant room for negotiations. Hamuel's magical skill wasn't just good for instructions and translating, but it was also useful for negotiation and surrender terms. She had heard information that there were other magical girls operating in the city as well. She didn't want them to become a thorn on her side. She could use her quick thinking. She should complete this as fast as possible. Hearts, you'll be my escorts. I'm far weaker than all you, but look, It'll be trouble if your commander gets taken out, right? Better not to cause any trouble at all. The three magical girls below her were running from the park to the station. At times like this, the ability of flight was useful and convenient. She ordered her team to move and then looked elsewhere. And when she looked elsewhere, she saw two elementary school boys playing catch. It was probably prohibited to play catch in the park, even though there aren't any cars around. It's a little dangerous. Hemiel kept her communication device close to her mouth. Don't play catch by the road. If you do, I'll call your school. She relayed the message. The two boys hurriedly looked around their surroundings, but they didn't know where the voice came from. Hemiel's powers allowed her to speak directly into their minds. The distance doesn't matter. It's effective even if they're at the other side of the earth. The two boys ran off like they were tumbling. They probably had a new ghost story to tell now. Hemiel aimed for the hearts, Shufflin's group slowly descending. Alright, and now we're getting an interlude at the end here on page 45. What's interesting about this, though, is we have no idea how they made a second set of Shufflins that are basically homunculi, because you would need the original Joker to make them. So I don't know how they make them without the original Joker, but I assume that's just a mystery for the future. But we have an interlude here. An unfamiliar room. This was a warehouse somewhere. No windows. She didn't know if it was day or night. The fact that there were only concrete walls and floors gave off a stark view. It was a four-sided room of the same length, a square room. Each side was enough for Shadowgale to travel from one side to the other in 6 paces. Her wrench and scissors, magical phone, and even her bandages had been confiscated, leaving only her costume. She could destroy the walls with just her bare hands. Even Shadowgale, who didn't believe in her own strength, knew she could do it. The problem was the guards. 4 dark, creepy creatures were in each corner of the room, 4 rectangles having their backs to the walls. They were like wings. If she moved, they'd move too. The part that looked like a face looked up, and if Shadowgale tried to escape, they'd immediately attack and target her relentlessly. These demonic creatures were the ones swarming the sky, the one intercepted by Patricia's subordinates. They were the ones who made her subordinates unable to contact Patricia. Further, there were 4 of them here. All they do is respond to Shadowgale's movements. They don't respond to questions like, what's going on, or is Patricia safe? Was Patricia being held somewhere else, or was she... When Shadowgale thought that far, she bit her lip. She remembered the last thing she saw. If she wondered whether Patricia was alive, then the truth is that she's not. Patricia was killed, but Shadowgale wasn't. Shadowgale can guess they wanted to capture her. She wondered if she was being left alone because they attacked Patricia, who was protecting her, or probably because they already took Patricia protecting her into account. Shadowgale balled up her fist and raised it, slightly shook it, but didn't bring it down to the floor, only to her thighs. She swung it down twice, 3 times. When she swung it down the 4th time, she stopped as the 4 silhouettes rose, her thighs numb with pain. What were her captors doing? Was Shadowgale being held hostage to make Flea act? Was this related to depositing Flea's memories to Snow White? Does Snow White even know this was happening? Perhaps the time to pay for what they've done, Flea and Shadowgale. Though that doesn't mean she won't resist. Patricia gave her life to protect her. She can't just sit here crying in a room somewhere. Where was she? She tried to find anything that could be a hint. She also tried to find some way to relay it to the outside. While paying attention to the movements of the black silhouettes, she knocked on the floor, knocked on the walls, placed her ears on the entrance, abandoning her actions as soon as the 4 silhouettes moved, but she couldn't find anything that could be a hint. Reality was not a game. Even if it was similar, their experiences were different, since there'd always be some kind of opening. Since there was no way to escape, no matter how much she looked, she wouldn't find anything. She heard a voice in her head telling her to give up. Giving up was her specialty. She's lived her whole life giving up. Someone who lived with Konoe Hitakoji would be good at giving up. Should she or should she not give up? Patricia's face filled her head. She apologized as she brought herself together. Sometimes surrendering can be used as a weapon. That depends on the circumstances. Had she done everything she could? Was there still something she didn't do? Konoe could probably think of something. Just thinking about becoming Konoe, even for a little bit, made her feel disgusted. However, the only person who could always overcome impossible obstacles wasn't Momori, it was Konoe. Wouldn't Konoe be able to think of something? Either way, Shadow Gale could only do so much, so she moved on to thinking. What would Konoe do? What idea would she come up with? She thought and continued to think, but before she could reach a conclusion, she heard the rusty sound of the entrance being opened. There, she saw the armor magical girl that fought Patricia. And there we end chapter 1. It was such a good chapter, oh my gosh. I love Uluru so much, and I'm interested in what's going on with all these other different people, like the homunculi shuffling, or what's going on with what's her face, the angel Hamuel, or it could be a situation where they've given Hamuel these shufflings and lied, and the Joker is still totally alive. So we don't know. We'll have to see what happens for the future of this arc. I really enjoyed this first chapter, and I'm excited to read the rest. So that's it for this week. Thank you so much for watching. Like if you did like the video, comment down there to tell me what you thought of this chapter, what you thought of my thoughts and reaction to it. Subscribe for more Magical Girl Raising Project, much more on the channel. Follow on Twitter if you want. I can try to keep you up to there and stuff for the channel or talk to you there. And if you want a link to our Discord server to talk to me or more of us there, just ask and I can give you a link. That's it. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.